Hello, everybody, and welcome to HD Movie Talk. I am your favorite host, Fluffy Duffy, and I'm joined here today by your least favorite host, admittedly, Dean's Beans.
Can I at least be second favorite?
I'll talk to the board.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, you're
Been
welcome.
a good word for me.
Okay, and today is a very special episode. It's the first in a new series, in a potential new series called Sequelify.
Right, no, it's not.
What?
We're doing another Morbius. No, I'm joking.
You're such a jokester.
It's Sequelify. Like,
no, it's Sequelify. No, it's Sequelify.
You don't fy something, you ify something.
Dean, I'm sorry. Did you have the idea for this?
Who came up with the name? Wait. That was Dean's Beans.
If I reckon, we'd probably just be doing another news and reviews.
Hey,
if I hadn't come up with this.
Hey, well, news and reviews has been defunct.
That's
friend.
true. That has been defunct.
The board looked at it and took the funding away, so we don't have the funding for those slideshows anymore. Anyway,
the board.
That down board. What is Sequelify?
So Sequelify is a new series where we take. That's what I said. It's a new series where we take a one-off, like just like a movie, a well-respected movie, or a movie we want to see a sequel for, and then we make our own sequel for the said movie.
Yes.
And today, I think today's the first episode, and I think the best one to be our first one to make its first movie to make a sequel for is The Truman Show.
I disagree.
Oh, do you want to talk about something else today?
I think we should choose a different movie, yeah, and then
we'll go. Do you want to choose? How about the Electra movie? We can make a sequel to the Electra movie.
Let's do The Truman Show. Funnily enough, The Truman Show we talked about on episode 6 of this podcast. Yeah. This week is guess what episode we're on today?
What, like 56?
I did not realize what episode
46?
49.
49. Ooh, next
week is the big 50, and then that means very soon we'll be at 1 year, which is a shame when you think about it. Anyway, so we're going to talk about The Truman Show. We're going to make a sequel for it, and then I'll get Jim Carrey on the ringer and see what he thinks.
You got his number?
Yeah,
no, he blocked me. Okay, so
he's not interested in your Sonic 3 ideas. He's told me so.
So everybody who doesn't know what The Truman Show is, raise your hand.
Why did you raise your hand?
I'm not raising my hand.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just demonstrating it.
You're demonstrating how to raise your hand?
Yes. So, so one viewer definitely does. I saw their hand go up. So one visual listener doesn't know what The Truman Show is. So let's explain it to them. Dean, do you want to explain The Truman Show?
The Truman Show is arguably the second best movie of all time, in my humble opinion. And it's a movie starring Timothy Carey, where... Is he a James?
Who cares?
Okay, I'm getting sidetracked already. Starring Jim Carrey, where basically this guy lives inside a massive dome, which is a studio, which is like a TV studio, and every single person in the dome is an actor, and he doesn't know this, and his life is filmed as a TV show 24/7, and he's like the only person who doesn't know about it, and it's watched all around the world, and all his wife's an actor, his best friend's an actor, his mum's an actor, and he's like, and then the movie is about him getting very paranoid about the world around him and him figuring out he's in a TV show, and then spoiler alert, him escaping the TV show.
That was pretty good.
If you want to hear a full review of this movie, go to episode 6 of this podcast, where we talked about it with King Callan.
What a champ he is.
Yes. As I said, this is my second favorite movie ever, I reckon. I just adore this with all my being.
We know. You have a poster of it, don't you?
It's that one.
No, it's there. Yeah, there you go.
I put the wrong hand up because I was looking at the mirrored version of myself. You can see little Jimothy there. I'm gonna find out if this guy. I know he's Canadian. James Eugene Carey.
Okay, so his name is James, but it's Jim Carrey.
It's Jimothy.
Sorry, my bad. Anyways, so this movie is good for a lot of reasons. Because if you didn't know, I have the Blu-ray of it.
Whoa!
I
I don't.
know. And originally, this movie was supposed to be made in 1995, but Jim Carrey was busy during that because that was like when
that was his big year.
That was his big year.
That was the big Jimothy year. People go back and they look on it and they go, "That was the big Jimothy year." Is me constantly interrupting you getting annoying? No, I'll just keep doing it.
This point, I'm kind of used to it. This movie ended up coming out in 1998. And even like up to that point where like the Blu-ray release, not the Blu-ray, the DVD release came out, they were like, this film is even ringing more true from when it was written in 1995. So within like that span of like 4 years or so, it became more true. And like
show.
And then you fast forward 20 years into the future, and it's like even more true. It's insane how well this film was aged.
The movie is like based around the idea of reality TV, and it's kind of like a spoof of everyone constantly being watched and vlogs and that sort of thing. And so actually it's funny you say this. So I was looking into whether a sequel for this movie was ever planned or whatever, and I found this quote from Jim Carrey recently. This is one of 2 quotes. I'm going to read it to you.
Okay.
I think Truman Show is something that exists on a micro level now. It was sort of a story about that on a macro level, but now everybody has a subscriber channel and everybody has their own little Truman Show world. So there's something to be had there. So Jimothy agrees with us.
Interesting. And what was his other quote?
That was I just think this guy's so old. He says everyone has a subscriber channel. Come on, Jimothy. Okay, so he was asked about a sequel, and this was the quote he said: "There was never been a sequel planned as far as the general public knows, and the director has never expressed an interest in it. Peter Weir, none of that's ever happened." But Jim Carrey has spoken about it a few times, and recently this was with when Sonic 2 came out. He said, "I often think and I'm asked about what I think would have happened to Truman when he goes outside the wall. And it took me a while to realize that basically he was alone out there too, because everybody went back inside. They all wanted to be in the dome."
Interesting.
And then all the articles written about it. This one is by Movie Web, and they go, "Jim Carrey's The Truman Show 2 idea is dark and depressing." That first movie is dark and depressing.
Yeah, it's a dark thing. I don't think it should be light and fun.
But that's a big thing I love about the movie, is how it is kind of fun when you watch it, but it's still such a dark.
Right. So what are some like questions that you would want answered if they made a sequel?
I mean, I think there's one obvious one. I'm trying to very quickly think of the joke answer, but I'll say what I was actually going to say.
What's Paul Giamatti up to?
What is Paul Giamatti up to? Is he in a giant robot rhino suit?
Yes.
No.
Is he?
Rhino!
What is Truman Burbank's life outside of the dome?
Yes.
That's I think at the time when we did the Truman Show episode, I have a memory of us talking about the sequel. And I said something along the lines of, I want a sequel to see what his life is like, but I also don't. But we're here to make a sequel, so.
Right. And I think if the sequel was to be made, I think another very important character we'd have to follow up on is Christoph.
Yes.
Christoph is like the guy that runs this whole thing. He's the director of it all.
Something I found interesting, which I don't know, I don't remember this being a thing. I don't know if I picked up in this past, but something they say about Christoph is that he values his privacy. And I think that's something that could be really fascinating to look at in a sequel, because obviously the whole point of the Truman Show is it's a massive violation.
Right. And I was watching, because after I finished the movie, because I have the Blu-ray, I was watching like a behind the scenes, and the director, Peter Weir, considering he had so much time from 1995 to when they shot it, he wrote just stuff that didn't need to be shot, just so that it would, like, everything would add up and every little detail would check out. Like if you notice in the moon dome or whatever, everybody in there is wearing like cloth over their shoes.
Yeah.
As to not get like the floor dirty from coming in from the outside, sort of a thing.
There's so much stuff like when there's lightning, the moon lights up.
Right.
Like because like it reflects off the moon. It's just so much stuff like that where you'll rewatch it and you're like, this is cool.
So like Christoph, Peter Weir wrote a backstory where he won like awards because he made a documentary about the homeless where he had like little cameras documenting it all like without them knowing and sort of a thing. And then this Truman Show thing was just supposed to be like documenting the birth, like the process of, being born. And they initially only had a nursery room and a mom. And then as the child started to grow up, they put a dad in the picture and they gave the dad a garage. And then at a certain point, Christoph was like, okay, now we're going, like, it's gone this far. We're going to do From Life to Death.
Yeah.
And I think Christoph, if that was the idea, right? Christoph, I'm just realizing this now. If that was his goal, that's why he tried to kill Truman at the end, was because he was sacrificing. He was like, this, like, he needs to die for my vision to be complete.
Yeah.
Which we might be able to factor into this. So that'd be interesting.
So I have another question.
Yes.
What is Truman's relationship with Sylvia outside of the dome?
Well, I think it would be most interesting is if when we cut to Truman's life, which is like 30 years into the future.
Is that what we're doing? Does the sequel have to take place in the modern day?
Not modern day, but like still Jim Carrey.
I mean like, so like we can't say, oh, the sequel was made in 2005. Is that a rule we're going by here?
Well, I want to use Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And the sequel I envision. Okay, here's like my bare bones pitch. Okay. Truman's life. We cut to Truman's life. He's, aged however much Jim Carrey's age, so like 20, 30-ish years. And he's like not, his life is not good because he has all this paranoia and, trauma from that experience. And I think one thing that would be really interesting is if the reason him and Sylvia are not together is because Truman did not want to have a kid.
Yeah.
Because he raising a child is something that's like scary to him, considering his childhood was so rough, and have the idea, because Truman would be a celebrity, right? And having the idea of like now that his kid have to go through a similar process of the media watching him, something scary to him. And I think so at this point, his life is not good. And then it's announced that Christoph is going to be making a new show.
That was my pitch.
And then he similar to how because I was literally interested to see how his dad snuck onto set.
Yeah.
Considering it's so hard to get on the set.
Yeah.
And I would want to see Truman breaking into there and trying to save the kid and get him out of there. With maybe Truman dying.
So your plot is him breaking in, not like... Yeah. Okay, before we get more into the minutiae of that, what other questions do we have?
I think we need to I think it'd be interesting because I want to know where all the characters were from the first movie. So I think it'd be interesting if it opens in a very similar style to having like interviews with the cast. Like it could be like a 30-year later.
Yeah, 25-year later.
Yeah, 25-year later. Where are they now? Sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is totally what I'm going. That's my promo for the podcast on Tuesday. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be Where Are They Now? The Truman Show edition.
Yeah. Where is Jim Carrey? Who knows?
Who knows?
I've got them on Find My Friends. Do you want to know?
Yeah, where is he?
He's on the John.
I hope he's all right.
Yeah.
So, other questions. Oh, other question. What happened to the set? That huge dome that was
you was turned into a museum.
Maybe.
Or a holiday resort or something like that. I feel like that's what would happen.
Okay. And then what else?
I had another idea. This is like slightly separate, but it can be a thing in the same movie. Is like, what if people start hiding cameras around Truman and they start filming him and putting it online? And they're like, it's the Truman Show returns.
I think it would be interesting if he was like hated by everybody because he, like, when people filmed him, he got like, maybe like he got violent, sort of a thing. Like, I think it would be interesting if like Truman is a shell of himself, but that'd be really dark.
I feel like I'd want to see like flashbacks to like his first confrontation with like his best friend and stuff like that after leaving the dome. And I feel like feeding flashbacks into the movie is a way to like build up this paranoia and like have it predominantly set in the anniversary time, but have like flashbacks to him just leaving the dome and stuff.
Right, because I think like if the movie like even opens with that, that'd be really interesting to see all the news coverage and like, because arguably he would be more of a celebrity than he was on the show.
Because
like,
they say about like it's like the most views they've ever got was that last bit. What if like the movie opens and it's the last scene of the movie and he goes, "Good afternoon, good evening, and good night," and he steps through the door. And then there's just like a random like, and then it just goes from that point, and it's like the immediate scene after that. Because I want to know like what was the process of him actually going outside? Like what did he do? Like he doesn't have anything. He doesn't even like have a social security number probably, or any of this stuff, or money or anything.
Right. Interesting. There's a bunch of ways we can take that. Like we can make him a spiteful person. We can make him a forgiving person. We can make him. There's so many ways we could take his character. But I think what's most important is I think first, before we get into Truman, we need to determine where Christoph is at.
Yeah. Because I feel like Christoph gets fired is like what I imagine happening.
Well, yeah, because he tried to kill the Truman.
Here's a pitch for you. What if another young protege is trying to start the Truman Show? Obviously called something else. Paul Giamatti, yeah. And then Christoph comes to Truman asking for his help to stop it for whatever reason. Because I feel like the one thing you'd want in a sequel is more Christoph and Truman interaction.
So is Christoph like trying to... It would be interesting if he goes to Truman and tells him that they're doing this. And because Paul Giamatti's character is good.
Yes. Well,
you know what I mean? Well, not good because he's like taking in that, but
the one like good thing he does is tries not to kill Truman, surely. Like he doesn't do much else apart from that.
And if we're going, it's like because I at this point I 100% believe that Christoph is a bad person.
Yeah.
Because that totally makes sense. I didn't even realize that Kristoff tries to kill Truman at the end because he realizes he's about to escape and he can't. He needs his vision he needs his project to be complete, a life to death story.
Mm-hmm. But it has been 25 years, so I think you could redeem him if you're wanting to go in that direction.
And so here's what I think we do.
Go on.
I don't think we try. I think we make it seem like we're trying to redeem him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at the end, what Kristoff does is, so Kristoff's mindset is, I know this Paul Giamatti is going to make a new Truman Show, but with like a new kid. And Paul Giamatti's character does not have the vision that Kristoff has. Paul Giamatti just wants to do like capturing the life, but Kristoff was like life to death.
Yeah.
So what Kristoff's plan is he's like, okay, I know Truman's going to be against this, and I'm going to tell Truman how he can break into this place. But really, once Truman breaks into that place, I am going to go to Paul Giamatti's character and be like, trust me, I am the only one who can help you right now. And then he tries to kill Truman to get that.
Do you not think that's just a bit too, like,
on the
maniacal,
nose?
Villainous?
Yes, I do.
I think that's a bit too like cackling villain, because he's not he's a bad guy, but he's not a cackling villain.
So he's not a cackling villain.
So what if like he only wants to stop the show because he's like, oh, they're doing it all wrong. It's ruining my legacy. They don't care about because I think an important question to ask is what is like the message of the sequel? And I think it could be he's like all like, oh, I need to stop this because I don't care what they're doing to that kid. I just think it's ruining the art of it. And I had such this vision in like for the first one, and they're just ruining the art of it. And then this one, it isn't like really done by Paul Giamatti, but it's like the producers running the show. And Paul Giamatti's just like a, like a John Watts. It's a joke.
Well, I think what if, so I kind of like the idea of Kristoff kind of, because he's this like abstract artist sort of a thing. And I kind of like the idea of him obsessing over never finishing his project. But what if towards the very end, Truman and this new character are about to die, and then Kristoff gets like, he saves him.
Sure.
Because
over the course of the movie, he learned to like see Truman as a person and not as a commodity.
Right.
But okay, so just to get into the minutiae of what happens, I think that Truman, okay, I think so just to imagine what his life is like after he leaves the show, I imagine him being a recluse.
Yes, but not immediately.
No, but I think the question is, how does he get money? And I think there's two options here, unless you've got another idea. Number one is the public like donates it to him because they feel sorry for him.
Okay.
Number two, he sues the show. And there's like a whole like, and then like that you can go like, oh, this lasted for years, and he ended up getting a settlement of however many millions of dollars, and now he just lives off of that in like this small like cat house in the middle of the countryside.
I think we should do that second one.
Yeah.
Because I think it'd be interesting if Sylvia set that up for him. But he didn't want to. Not didn't want to, but just didn't have the energy to.
Yeah.
And then she got him that. And they ended up getting divorced.
Well, first he's got to divorce his actual wife. Yeah.
It wasn't. She crossed her fingers. Doesn't count. So I think for Truman, how we started off is like the first month. Like he shies away. Like he and Sylvia go like
Fiji.
I think he does media, and he like does coverage and press, like not like he participates. He goes to like an award show or something.
Yeah.
Just because he thinks that's what he should do, but it's slowly like you can tell that isn't for him, and he's not enjoying it. And then like,
do you want to hear my pitch for one of the flashbacks? Yes. Goes to an award show, bumps into Marlon, and they have a massive like argument, and then he gets kicked out.
Yeah.
And that's when he kind of goes. That's when he kind of goes, oh, I won't go to these things anymore. Because imagine the first time he sees his best friend.
Yeah.
And like, because you wouldn't see his best friend when he first leaves the studio, because they're on the island and he's,
right.
Not.
So that would be interesting. Yeah, I like that idea.
But then it's, how do you structure it? Are these flashbacks like littered throughout, or are they all at the start, or? I think you want them spread out.
I think you do want them spread out, but I do also think, in the beginning, we have like a commercial like celebrating 25 years of the Truman Show.
Like, but what's happened to Truman Burbank since leaving the show?
Like, not even that, but like it shows like all he did before he like escaped the public eye, and then like, his friends and his mom and his dad talk about him, and then it says like Truman refused to make a comment for the anniversary. And then it cuts to him watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get that flash, and then I think after that, when we see him watching it, then we get a flashback of like the first couple hours of him escaping the.
Or is that, or do you open the movie with the last scene and it like carries on through? And then you go to the TV show.
I think it would be interesting if we get the 25-year anniversary, and then in that one at the very end, we see the clip of him doing that, and then we see him watching it, and then when we see him watching it, then it goes into the flashback that takes place
and then
right
like
after
the camera goes into the TV, and
yeah.
And then I imagine, just to create tension, when he because I assume the door goes to a studio somewhere, and he gets to the studio, and I imagine people are there filming him.
Yeah, and he keeps on running out, and
and then he gets out onto the street, and then there's just thousands of people there.
Right.
And then that's when it cuts.
Ooh, that's terrifying.
And then it cuts back to like him just sitting alone in this house. I imagine like newspapers are covering all the windows, and like he's got a beard, and he's just like eating food out of a tin. Like,
yes. And then like he gets a ring from Christoph.
Or like, But the Christoph just knocks on his door, and he's like, go away. But he's like, it's me. He's like, Truman refuses to open the door, and then he's like, Truman, they're doing it again.
The only problem I have with that is like that seems like because I think one of the things that was so cool about the first one is that like Christoph and Truman never met. He was always like a god.
That's true. Yeah.
So I feel like just him showing up at the doorstep is a little abrupt. Like, how do we do that while respecting that entire idea?
Yeah, but then could not the point of the second movie being like, what is their relationship like after? Like they have not been in contact over these years. What would their relationship be like if they were like next to each other? Because the other, just to get into the actual minutiae of the plot, like I imagine Truman without a phone and without any way of contacting him.
Do you know what I think would be interesting?
Go on.
Is if Truman hears from somebody that they're like, from like somebody like paparazzi, like, what do you think of them rebooting the Truman Show? And then he like goes like, what? And then he finds Christoph and like smashes in his door, and then realizes that Christoph is actually just like him, like a recluse, like driven insane because he wasn't able to complete his vision. I feel.
And like, I think you can get Christoph to be more sympathetic for Truman, because ever since the show failed, like the paparazzi have been following him everywhere and staking him out. And he's like, oh, this is what life is like with no privacy.
Right. And I think Christoph, though, has resentment towards Truman.
Yeah.
Resentment for not dying. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't want. Truman is the source of all of his problems now, because he was so close to being able to have that finish, like to have that art piece, and Truman ruined it.
Yeah.
And so I think he's mad at Truman, but then he realizes that Truman wants to stop it, and then he's like, I might be able to finish what I started. And then at the end, he realizes I can't do that.
Yeah. So what's this idea for the new show? Is it just the same? Is it?
I think I do think it'd be interesting if we play with that idea of parenthood for Truman, that like he doesn't want a kid, but he ends up taking in this kid, like being a father figure, a real father figure for this child.
Mm-hmm.
However, the one issue I see that I don't want it to be a baby.
That's the thing. I don't know how you do it without it being a baby. I think you want like a 5-year-old or something.
Right.
Unless it's already been go on.
How about this? Truman knows what's going on, but the moment he hears that they killed the dad off is when he gets angry.
Yeah.
Like it seems like they're treating this child with more respect and not manipulating.
Well,
like not giving them trauma to be like, you know what I mean?
I think, but like I feel like Truman would still have the problem of the show. I think he would then. I think like I don't think something specifically like that should be what set him off. I think he should just get an offer from someone to be like, hey, we can do something about this. I have an idea. Because I feel like with every version of that, it's not. I don't think it's like him. I feel like he's going to be annoyed they're restarting the show no matter what. So I feel like if like he knows it's been going on, but someone comes to him and he's like, hey, we can stop this. What if it's like what if it's what's her name? Sylvia? Or that's not, what is her name?
It's Sylvia.
Okay. What if it's Sylvia who comes in and she's like, hey, I know we've had our differences, Truman, but together we can stop this one.
And then he's like, how? And then she's like, I found Christoph.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only way we can do it.
And then you get the same scene of him storming up to him.
But I do think like it would be interesting if like they tried to kill the dad, like because like
yeah, they can do that too. I just don't think that would be something that would, I don't think that's kind of the inciting incident.
Well, but like the only reason I think about it is like if I was Truman, right? They gave me like a phobia of the ocean by killing my dad so that I wouldn't escape.
Yeah.
Like that's the most screwed up part of it all, I think.
Yeah.
It's like they're like, you can leave anytime, but not if he's scared to travel.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, so
I think
what if that's sorry.
Like maybe Truman tries to get the kid before that happens. Like that's
that's a good idea.
That's the ticking time bomb thing. Is we need to get it before the death of this new kid's father.
And I think Sylvia has been working on a way to try and stop this ever since it started. So
which might also be like another thing because Truman didn't like he hated that it was happening, but he couldn't like he can't even like think about going back, like thinking or like protesting. So that's like the main thing that drives him apart with Sylvia was like, why don't you want to be doing this? Like this is like everything that you're against, and he's like annoyed by it.
And like there can be mentions about how like when it first started, she kept asking him to like go and do press conferences and stuff, but he'd always say no. Okay, so we've got that part sorted out. So it opens with the 25th anniversary, saying, "Hey, there's and then interviews with previous cast." And like it's all very fake. They're all very like, "Hey, yeah, Truman's all right. Like I haven't spoken to him much, but he's still a great guy." Blah blah blah. And then obviously later we find out that he's slapping people at the Oscars and stuff. I mean, wait, no, that was a little joke about Will Smith.
Oh, ha. And also, he wouldn't be at the Oscars. He'd probably be like at the Golden Globes or something.
Yeah.
For TV
Have you heard about how Jim Carrey talked about this Will Smith thing? Because he's done like multiple interviews about it.
Yeah.
He is outraged. Fair enough. This is off topic. Interviews with previous cast members being very nice. And then you get the first and then you see Truman in his house. Then you get the first flashback. And then do you get Sylvia showing up and being like, "Hey, we can finally stop this"?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Then yeah. And then they go and see Christoph.
Right. Okay, yeah. She's like, "I found Christoph," and he's like, "What?" And then he
because Christoph has money and he's just been. And I think on the way to Christoph, you get another flashback of like the court case or something to do with Christoph and Truman after leaving the dome.
Yeah, I think the court case would be interesting.
Yeah.
But Christoph isn't there. It's the corporate people that are being tried, not Christoph.
Yeah, but I think he gets brought. Okay, so Truman isn't there for all of the court case because he doesn't want to be involved, and obviously Christoph isn't there for all of it. But I think at one point you have to bring both of these characters in, and this is the first time they see each other after escaping This is the first and only time they've seen each other after escaping the dome.
I think it would be interesting if the only time they saw each other was when Christoph was on the stand, and so Truman is still looking up to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
We should do that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what is their plan?
So their plan, I think. Well, did they create a new set for this show, or is it? Did they what do you want to call it?
I think they reuse the old set because then you get stuff of Truman like seeing his old house and stuff.
Okay. So then in that case, how does he break into the set?
is that what he does? Is that his original plan? Because I feel like maybe him and Christoph will like maybe try talking to Paul Giamatti or try talking to the press before they break in. I feel like that's how it ends. I feel like you do need him breaking onto the set.
I think Truman should go to Paul Giamatti's character.
That's the fact. So wait, so they go and meet Christoph, and then you get this like the first time Truman and Christoph ever have a conversation. And what do those two decide to do?
Well, I think Christoph would say, like, I'm not in control anymore. This isn't me. It's all Paul Giamatti.
That's what he says. He's like, this damn Paul Giamatti is ruining this.
But like he says, like, he's the director. And then it turns out Paul Giamatti does have the title of director, but it's really the studio pushing the buttons.
But does Christoph be like, hey, I'll help you stop this? Or is Christoph like, get out of my house? Go on.
Christoph is at first like, get out of my house.
Yeah.
But then eventually he comes around and is like, actually, I think I will help you. Wink, wink. He likes actually going to try and kill him, but then realizes he doesn't want to.
I think I like the idea of him helping because he's like, oh, they're not doing this properly. It's not the art I created. This is some cheap imitation of what I tried to do.
Well, I think at first he's blinded by the rage he has against Truman. And then he is like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So,
because I think it would be interesting if Truman is like scared of this guy a little bit. Like he, has a lot of anger, but this is like literally his god and devil at the same time.
Yes. So like, is this their first conversation since he leaves the dome?
I think this is their first conversation together, face to face. And so Christoph says, like, it's all Paul Giamatti, but get the hell out of my house. And then he starts like screaming at them, and then he leaves.
Okay. What if not only is this movie intercut with court cases, but this first act is intercut with scenes of this new kid? So like you just get like random scenes of him just living a very ordinary life, just so like you're kind of back in the Truman Show.
Yes. What is this kid's name?
That's what I was just thinking. Because I feel like whatever his name is, you're kind of like, are you calling the movie that?
Right.
Because the show in the actual TV show within the movie is called The Truman Show.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a boy? Is it a girl?
Should probably be a girl.
These bloody PC police.
But I don't know what they would. The true.
The Truman is such a good name.
It is.
Are we calling it The True Woman Show? That wasn't a joke.
I don't know what you would call it.
Because Truman do you think it would be weird if they just called them Truman again and it's a guy? What about real person? Hello, I'm real person.
They would name him Truman. Let's just say they would name them Truman again.
Yeah.
But what would the name of the movie be?
I think you'd have to call it The Truman blank. So like you change the word show to something.
Yeah, Truman movie. Truman.
I don't know. I'm like The Truman Experience, but I don't even know what that means.
The Truman sequel. That's so dumb. Okay.
The Truman Show.
Dumb and Dumber 2. Okay.
Okay, The Truman Show when Harry met Lloyd. But wait, no, this is actually okay. No, that's a really dumb idea. I was about to go, one of the worst sequel that's ever been made to a Jim Carrey movie is Son of the Mask. So what if it's Son of the Truman Show?
Oh my god, that'd be so bad.
Okay. Anyway, the name is important. The name isn't that important.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, so we have the first act.
Yes.
Second act.
Well, so wait, so we got to the point, is he now going to talk to Paul Giamatti and he's all like, hey, Paul, This character doesn't even have a name I just looked to see that
really
Paul Giamatti's character doesn't have a name in the movie.
Huh. Well, I think in this, he would go to Paul Giamatti's character and said, like, I don't have any answers for you. Like, this is out of my hands completely. Yeah. And then Truman's like, okay, there's nothing I can do. I give up. He deflates. And then he gets a call from Christoph and is like,
yeah,
I found another way.
When he goes to Paul Giamatti, is the press following him and is the press watching him?
No, but they are when he leaves.
Yeah. So he gets like told, hey, no, this is out of my hands.
Right. And then I think it'd be interesting if then Christoph is like, I know how we can do this. And it's maybe the Truman Show is declining in viewers, which is why they're going to do the Death of the Father episode.
Yeah.
And then Christoph is like, okay, Truman, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get back onto the set, going to convince Paul Giamatti to let me help out for this episode. And while I'm there, I'm going to let you in secretly. You're going to get the kid out of there and everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And then that's what happens. So now I think we're into the third act.
Yeah. Okay. Few questions.
Yes.
This is off topic, but as I was writing this down, I had an image in my head of so Truman leaves talking to Paul Giamatti and the paparazzi everywhere, and they're surrounding him. And then at this point, I think you cut back to the very moment he left the dome. Oh, I just had another idea of how you could sneak him in. What if he goes to his best friend and he's like, hey, you owe me one. Can you help me out and sneak me in? And then that's how you get that character involved. Because I feel like this is the kind of thing where they're like, yeah, we'll bring back old cast members because everyone loves seeing the old cast members return in things. So they get him back as like an uncle or something like that. And then Truman's like, hey, can you sneak me into set?
Is it so? How about this is all Chris? Okay, how about this? This is Christoph's plan. Christoph is like, okay, after Truman is deflated, after Paul Giamatti says like, I don't have the answers for you. Christoph calls him. He's like, I have a plan. Come to my place. He shows up. Marlon's there. He's like, oh, you did. But then the plan is Christoph's going to show up to Paul Giamatti's house and be like, okay, you got to let me help out with this because you don't know what you're doing. The students know what they're doing. I know what I'm doing. Yeah. The Truman Show is mine. He's like, okay, whatever, fine. And then he's like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce Marlon into the show because everybody loves him. Marlon comes on, sneaks Truman in.
Yeah.
And
I'm just thinking, I have a counter idea.
What?
What if Marlon is the dad? And then he goes, yeah, I'll help because he's not very happy that his character's being killed off.
Yes, the only issue is like, how will they be able to talk to him if he's the dad?
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so what if Christoph is like, I've got someone on the inside, and Truman's like, oh, okay, great. Who is it? And then he's like, it's Marlon, because like he's managing to contact with him while he's on the inside. Like they don't meet until Marlon sneaks him onto set.
Yes, Marlon's the dad.
And just before he sneaks on set, then you get the flashback of them meeting at the award show.
Yes. And then I think it'd be interesting if the climax of the movie is Marlon's about to die. And like fake die, but something goes wrong and he's actually about to die.
Yeah, are they drowning him again?
And Truman shows up to the boat, and then he's given the chance to either save Marlon, or no, how about this? Truman and Marlon are both on the boat, but considering they're both on the boat, something like Marlon's only supposed to fake die, but considering Christoph is at the helm of it right now. He's trying to make both of them die.
Mm-hmm.
And then Truman realizes this, and he realizes Marlon will actually be about to die if he doesn't do something. So he tries to save Marlon. And in that moment of Truman sacrificing himself to save this person that betrayed him, Christoph realizes that he can't let Truman die.
Yeah.
And then he saves everybody.
I have one big question, which I think might be the most interesting part of this movie, which we've kind of overlooked.
What?
What is the relationship between Truman 1 and Truman 2? Like when they meet, what happens? How old is Truman 2?
Well, I think Truman 1, I think Truman 2 is going to be like 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
And Truman 2 is going to break the news to this kid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Truman 1 is going to break the news to Truman 2. And then Truman 2 is going to kind of hold it against Truman. Because, like, what does this guy know he's talking about? He's ruining my entire reality.
Yeah. But is that all televised while it happens? Because surely it has to be.
Yes, it has to be.
So does Truman make a grand entrance on set? So I think, so Truman sneaks onto set with Marlon and they bicker for a bit, and Bicker's like, I've got to, and then Marlon's like, I've got a scene, so I've got to go. Okay. And Truman's like, okay. And then Truman's walking around and he's seeing like where he used to work and his old house and that sort of thing. And he's like, okay, I can't do this. And then he goes to leave. And just as he's leaving, he sees Truman 2.
Yeah.
And then like Truman, and like he sees Truman 2 like walking with his mum or something like that. Or what if he's walking with Marlon and Marlon just takes a step back?
And what does Truman do?
I think he goes up and I think he goes up and he tells him. Do you think?
Well, I think, sorry for that dead air. I was thinking really hard. I think
takes a lot of effort.
That what they should do is, I don't think Truman should interact with this kid until the climax. Like,
Okay.
I think Truman is like watching this kid and it's like caring for this kid and loving this kid, but the kid has never seen it. Like, he's like kind of stalking him.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, what Truman is doing is he's sneaking around the places to try and gather resources and names to realize when exactly are they going to go out on the boat? Are they going to go out on the boat? He's trying to plan it all from the inside so that he can be there when it happens.
I think he knows what day it's going to happen, because kind of like there was a moment in the Truman Show where Christoph is like, oh yeah, and in an upcoming episode, he's going to get divorced. I think like a week before, in the 25th anniversary clip at the very start of the movie, they're like, and very special, celebrating the 25th anniversary on Friday, Truman's dad is going to die.
Right.
So he knows the day, but he just doesn't know how or what or where or why.
And I think he wants to save it he wants to save Truman at that very exact time, because they'll be so close to the like edge of the world.
Yeah.
And so
that does he know that he's dying by drowning?
No, but I think he figures that out.
What if Christoph insists? What if Christoph is like, that's the only way I'll be able to get you out, is if you save him at that pivotal moment, because that's when everyone's going to be paying attention. And then the only reason Christoph is saying that is because Christoph is like, that'll make the best television.
Yeah, then that's how Truman will die, the same way his dad did. Both Trumans.
Is this Christoph still planning on killing them? Because I don't know.
I think he's conflicted about it, but he knows that's a possibility that he could be able to.
But do we know that as the audience?
Well, no, but we didn't know that he wanted Truman to die up until the very end there.
Yeah.
In the first movie. So I think
okay, so what if the producers are there trying to kill Marlon and they're like, oh, we'll kill Truman as well because he's interfering. And then Christoph just stands there and he's like, yeah, okay, this is cool. And then he intervenes.
Yeah, like he doesn't say it's cool, but he's like stressed.
Yeah.
Like he's like sitting in the back and then he tells everybody to move and then he cancels it all and they escape. I think that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
Do we have the movie?
Well, what does Truman say to this kid? Does he go, oh, your entire life's a lie, you're a TV show? Does this kid have any paranoia about it all?
Well, Truman didn't at this point in time.
But what if we're like, hey, this is a lot more of a crap version of the original TV show and they're not as good as their job? Because what if when you cut the scenes back, it is stuff like lights falling down? Because I don't think he knows. I just think he knows something is wrong. And then Truman shows up. He's like, this is a TV show.
Yeah, he doesn't know, but he just knows something's wrong. But he doesn't have the brain power to be able to really be able to.
Yeah.
And I think at the end, you know, we don't get, it leaves it open-ended again, but they're running out holding hands sort of a thing.
So the movie is all complete. Harlan, I've got it all written down here. Do you want to hear it?
I would love to.
Do you think everyone at home wants to?
Or
on their commute?
How about, can we raise, who wants to hear the idea for a sequel? Raise your hands. Okay.
I've got my hand up. Yeah, you're outvoted. The one listener.
Guys.
Okay.
Yep. Close tie.
Okay. So the sequel to The Truman Show, as yet untitled. Any quick name ideas?
The Truman Show 2, Electric Boogaloo.
I was literally going to say The Truman Show 2, The Secret of the Ooze. Okay. So the movie opens up with like a 25th anniversary TV clip of The Truman Show of like interviews with previous cast members who were like very nice and fake about Truman. And then it talks about the new Truman Show that started with this second kid called Truman, who's like 8 years old. And then they go, oh, and big for the 25th anniversary week, or at the end of the week on Friday, we're going to kill off Truman's dad. And Truman's dad is played by Marlon, who was his best friend in the previous movie. Truman is just here sitting in his house and he's like bearded, newspaper over all the windows, looking an absolute mess. And like, he's clearly just numb to all of this news and he's like barely watching it. And he turns and the show ends with the clip of Truman leaving the dome and Truman turns off the TV. But then we get the flashback of what happens when Truman leaves the dome. And it's him like running through the studio and like running past people and people are trying to film him. And he runs outside of the dome and outside of the dome is just hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of people, all like with cameras on him, all like shouting at him. And he's just standing there in the middle of this crowd. And then it just cuts back to Truman.
Yes.
Truman in the modern day. And back in the modern day, Sylvia comes and knocks on his door and like these two dated for a while. Maybe they got married, but they never had kids or anything. The movie doesn't make it like 100% clear. Well, we know they didn't have kids, but like we're not 100% sure what their relationship was. And Sylvia has been trying to like stop this new Truman Show ever since it happened. And Truman like should be helping, but he just doesn't want to talk to the press and he doesn't want to be in the public eye. So he hasn't helped. And this is something he does feel very guilty for. But Sylvia goes, I know how to stop him. Like I know how to stop the show. I found Christoph. And then we get a flashback to the court case. When Truman left the Truman Show, he sued them. Like Sylvia sued them, but he got the money. And he only sees Christoph during the court case once. And Christoph is giving a witness testimony. And he says something very flowery and like poetic while standing up on the stand. So Truman is down below looking up at him. And this is the only time they've ever met face to face. And then it's kind of said Christoph was fired from the TV, and he was kind of like blacklisted from TV, and he went to live as a recluse as well, just like Truman, and no one sees him. But Truman goes and knocks on his door, and they have a big argument. And Truman is like kind of scared of this guy. Truman's very scared to knock on the door. But Truman is like, we need to stop this second show. And Christoph is like, I have nothing to do with it. Paul Giamatti is in charge. Go talk to him. This is where he is. Christoph isn't helping. And like, while Christoph is in his house as a recluse, unlike Truman, he is watching the second Truman show. Like, he is actually watching this kid go around his life. So then Truman leaves. And when Truman leaves, we then cut into the dome. And from like this point on until the end of the movie, we're just getting clips from the new Truman show. What if that's the name of the movie? The New Truman Show.
Yeah, I like that. The New Truman Show.
Yeah. Yes. And inside the dome, they're like, Truman too is quite suspicious of what's going on. But like, he knows something's wrong, weird things are happening, and weird people are saying weird things to him. So he's like suspicious, and we're getting clips of that. But obviously, this kid being 8 years old, he isn't like, oh, I'm in a TV show, I'm going to run away to Fiji. So Truman goes to talk, and that like goes on for the rest of the movie, just clips like that. Truman goes to talk to Paul Giamatti, and Paul Giamatti's like, hey, I'm just a figurehead. The producers are in charge. There's nothing I can do. And then Truman leaves the studio and is surrounded by the paparazzi again, but goes home, and like seeing the paparazzi again has kind of triggered PTSD for him. So he's very deflated that he can do nothing. And like, he just feels a bit lost. And Sylvia comes to help, and they get into a big argument, and Sylvia leaves. And then we get the flashback of how they actually broke up. And they broke up because Truman was so paranoid and he didn't want any kids. And he's just a difficult person to get along with in general, but mostly because he didn't want
and then
kids.
We're also adding onto that she was advocating against the new Truman Show.
Yeah. And she's very vocal and in the public eye and everything. And obviously that's the last thing Truman wants. So Sylvia leaves, you get this flashback, and then Christoph phones Truman, and he goes, I know how to get inside the dome. I have a man on the inside. And the man on the inside is Marlin, who's playing the new Truman's dad, who is obviously about to die. So he's not very happy. So he's like, yeah, I'll help stop this. And then we get a flashback to the first time Marlin and Truman met each other. And that was at an award show, because when Truman outside the dome. Because Truman was trying to be in the public eye to begin with, because he was like, this is the thing I should be doing. And it's at an award show where these two meet, and they get in a massive argument, and Truman gets kicked out because Truman's like, hey, you've lied to me my entire life, blah, blah, blah. So Marlin gets snuck in by Truman, and Truman sneaks around the set because like he's got an earpiece, and Christoph is giving him instructions. And Christoph is like, hey, I don't have a lot of power here, because Christoph's gone back to the studio and like says he'll help Paul Giamatti because the ratings are so low. And Christoph is like, I don't have a lot of power, so I can only sneak you out during the death scene. And the reason Christoph is actually saying that is because he knows that will be like the best TV if like there's a big confrontation in this moment. So Truman is sneaking around, and he's saying to Christoph in the earpiece, he's like, oh, I can't do this, because like he walks past his house and where he works and everything, and he goes to back out, but then he sees Truman, the new Truman, walking down the road with his mum, and then suddenly his face just drops, and he feels so sorry for this kid that he stays. He sneaks around, and he gets like paperwork about what's happening, and he figures out the death time and everything. So then he goes and hides on the boat where the death is going to happen. And then up above, he hears the new Truman and Marlin sail off. And just as they're out in the sea, Truman comes out, and he tells the new Truman the truth. Well, he tries to tell new Truman the truth, but before they even get the chance, the producers see, and they create a storm that's about to kill all three of them. And Christoph is standing there, and he's kind of he doesn't do anything. And then one of the people says, oh, like, aren't you going to do anything? And then someone else says on Christoph's behalf, he's like, oh, this is what he's always wanted. And then Truman, like, Marlin gets thrown overseas, and Truman like gets a chance to go and hide in the boat. He doesn't. He goes and saves Marlin's life, like a man he can't stand. And when Christoph sees this, Christoph stops the storm, saving all three of their lives, and they sail into the side of the studio, just like Truman did. And then the kid turns around, and he's like, what on earth is going on? And Truman is like, well, no, Truman goes to tell him. And what if the kid's like, this is all fake, isn't it? And Truman's like, yeah. So then they leave together, they walk along. There's three of them now. They go up the stairs, open the door, and it's just the blackness before them again. The kid turns to Truman and goes, "What's it like out there?" And then Truman replies, "There's no more truth out there than the world here, but it's exactly what you make of it." And then together they step through the door and the movie ends.
And then you get the amazing score of like the
yeah. And then you get an end credit scene of Deadpool stepping through the door.
Yes. It's killing Kristoff.
Okay.
Or no.
Okay.
You get Deadpool and then Paul Giamatti leaves the room, then comes back in a rhino costume.
Okay. There's some questions to ask at this point that I have to ask. Question numero uno. How do you rate the original Truman Show out of 10? I rate it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, well done. Correct.
There's no way I can make it better.
What would you rate the new Truman Show out of 10?
I would give it an 8 out of 10.
I was going to go 8.5 because it doesn't kind of have the simplicity and the charm of the first one. It is a bit of a darker story.
Yeah.
And the last question is, if like this script was in front of you right now and you got the say on it, would you say, yes, make this movie? Or would you be like, no, I want to preserve the original Truman Show? What would you do? If it was up to you, would you create the sequel?
I would make the sequel.
I think I would as well. I came into this thinking, nah, I wouldn't make a sequel. But now we've come up with an idea. I'm like, yeah, I would watch this sequel.
I think this would be interesting to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff.
I thought you were going to quote The Truman Show.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
How would you say that? Like, let's say The Truman Show was like a foreign project. How would you say it in another country?
Mamma mia, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and mamma mia, good night.
All right. I think that's a perfect way to wrap up the podcast.
Yeah.
Adios, everybody.
Adios. Are you not going to sing us the song you end every episode with? I don't know. I've started doing this recently. Should I just stop this joke?
Well, okay. How do I do it? I say
you go, this is the end of the song.
This is the end of the song.
This is going to be baffling. That like Italian accent to this is going to be baffling if someone is like, oh, I like the idea of a Truman Show sequel.
Dude, I feel like it's so funny that at the end of the podcast, every time we're like, oh, we forgot all of our bits that we did. So we're like...
The only bit we remember today was talking about our visual listeners. Anyway, guys, it was good talking to you. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Good night.
You were so out of time that was awful. Bye.
Well, because I tried to... Okay, bye, guys.
Let us bicker off camera. Bye.